we have spawning down on the bottom right, looking to pick up his first map win of the group stage. It is CSO Esports YoungYakov.
In the upper left, though, his opponent, who actually has a map here in Group C, hoping for a couple more. For Good Game Gaming, it's Rattata.
And you mentioned Copium. I think that is the name of the game in this one. If we're looking at a chance of actually making it out of the group, I do think Hate Me and YoungYakov, very beatable opponents, but I do think Petit Drogo is going to be a really tough one. Already having 4 series losses is almost a doomed situation. Usually 4 and 3 is going to be the scoreline that gets you through. There are some weird situations, some edge cases, but it's going to be pretty tough. And to be honest, Petit Drogo is playing quite well in this tournament so far, so at the end of the day, these players are still at least competing for, you know, a $200 show match. Best of 3, $200. Yeah, that's pretty decent.
Yeah, it's kind of funny too. When you talk about Drogo for a second, I swear there's this buff that players get when they announce that they're not practicing StarCraft as much anymore, when they're taking a step back from the game, they're pseudo retiring. It happened to Neeb, where he left Ting, and it was talking about how, you know, he was going to go to school and taking a step back, and he goes, and I mean, look at the form Neeb is in right now. And apparently it's happened to Drogo as well. He started talking about how he's not practicing, he's not playing, and he's actually having one of his best DreamHack runs in a while. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the lack of pressure. Maybe Rattata needs to announce that he's not doing anything. Like, it's one thing to not practice as much, but it's another to announce that you're not practicing as much. So maybe Rattata needs to announce his retirement, and that's where we're going to see the resurgence in form.
I mean, maybe. I will say, though, with Neeb, I think it's a little bit different because he was more actually focusing on he hadn't been practicing as much leading up to this, and then he decided that with his retirement that he actually was going to go hard for like a couple of months, and he really was practicing quite a bit during that time period, and that is kind of what led to his resurgence. But with Petit Drogo, it is definitely something a little bit different from that. That was definitely him being like, okay, I'm taking my foot off the gas. And he just, with that new relaxed mindset, feeling a lot better about, I guess, competitive play in general, didn't put as much pressure on himself. Neeb is a funny case because he had already kind of taken his foot off the gas. But then when he announced that he was retiring, that's when he actually started practicing more. It's just a funny way that worked out.
Stop ruining my storylines, thank you.
Yeah, I know. It's just, it has been like all the Europeans, but for Neeb, he did the reverse of it, where he's like, yeah, I'm like gonna be retiring, and then he actually just put a lot more effort into it, which is very funny. As we get into the mid game, by the way, of this ZVZ, both players are building a decent number of lings, but it's just a small defensive setup that's pretty common these days to go for anywhere from 6 to 10 lings, build a Bane ling, and just be safe.
Yeah, Steadfast, you mentioned that we were going to get a lot of aggression, although I guess I kind of led you into it. We talked about how this game was going to be unexpected, aggressive, mid-game or early game play. Where was it? Where'd it go?
Well, I mean, it's early, mid, like as anything pre-layer or like Nidus Worm adjacent, like I think of that as still, you know, within the wheelhouse of making ZVZ weird. So for example, what we're seeing out of Rattata is that +1 carapace, no layer so far. This feels like it's got a lot of potential to be a big commitment, whereas YoungYakov, he's gone for a very quick layer before his upgrade, gets the +1 melee, and already has 3 gases. There we go, there's the 4th. He's going to be going Muta. So this is actually, on paper, extremely good for Rattata. Rattata has a very nice anti-Muta setup.
You know, so Carapace, in Muta versus Muta play is the upgrade you want to get, because Carapace applies to every shot fully, whereas the attack upgrade applies to, okay, he's gonna be fine, pulls back just in time. Got me a little scared there, but actually look at the damage he's doing. Great job. I was gonna say that one Bane Ling was gonna be able to kill both of YoungYakov's with the damage from the Ling, but even still, the aggression showing up here. That Bane Ling will get canceled, although then Rattata loses the Bane Ling that he has trundling on forward. But hey, there's a queen snipe. That's a fantastic move. The Bailey goes down here as well. Rattata is actually just making stuff happen here. Oh, and he gets lings in the natural as well. He's going to see the Spire. So great scout. He will lose a couple more lings to those Banes, but 7 drones have gone down. But arguably, more importantly, Steadfast, the Spire was scouted out. And we talked about this briefly, that Carapace means these roaches will take so little damage. A, to the +1 lings. B, to the mutas as they pop. So Rattata's push, if he decides to go for it, yeah, it's going to be tremendously strong.
Well, he actually elects not to go for this push here. And he's done something very interesting. It almost feels like it was a response to not go for the push in response. Like, he saw the timing of the Spire, and it feels like that caused him to, you know, play a little bit more defensively here. Now, he is building a lot of roaches. He did drone up behind this. Oh, Bane's trying to get in on top of the mineral line. Only gets 2 drones. Good pullback from Rattata. That could have been devastating. But this is super funky. The Carapace is still going to be helpful defensively. Hang on. He's not pulling his Overlords back. He scouted the Spire. Did he think this was a spine? Did he not click on this? He's left so many of these Overlords hanging. He doesn't have Overlord speed. Hello?
Yeah, Steadfast, correct me if I'm wrong here. +1 Carapace versus the build that YoungYakov was going for, especially on a map like Cosmic, where the third to third rush distance is so short, is almost just a build order counter.
It feels like it. He's just now starting the Hydralisk Den now. He looked at that Spire. He did not realize it was a Spire. He didn't click it. Oh my goodness, because he's just now pulling the Overlords back. This is going to be pretty painful.
Okay, how hard does he hit the
up very nicely? With no Overlords on the way, very hard. Fortunately for Rattata, YoungYakov isn't like taking advantage of he's not killing the Overlords as quickly as he could, but he's going to deny this 4th base. He's got map control. These are +1 melee lings. Even though the Carapace is done, they're still going to tear down buildings very quickly. If they get in top of a drone line, they'll kill it very quickly as well. This is a weird game. I really thought Rattata scouted that Spire and figured out what it was. Oh, the mutas are going to jump on these queens. There's not enough of them to contest this. They will pull back to the Spore, and he doesn't lose any, but he does have to use a transfuse. YoungYakov now has a ton of map control.
Oh, he's going to get 2 mutas here really almost for free. I think maybe 1. No, I don't even think a muta died. Good micro there from YoungYakov. And this is interesting, Steadfast. We talk about the anti-muta play. Rattata, he had a Hydra Den on the way when his 4th base was canceled. He canceled that, but he's got Infestors on the way. And Infestors are a very old school method. To my knowledge at least, we don't really see tons of Infestor play to deal with mutas because it's a little more fragile. It's a little more timing based. And before you have those pathogen glands, the Infestors don't do anything, so they're super vulnerable. As lings now from YoungYakov find their way into the natural and the main base as well. +1 melee means they absolutely shred any bits of drones. And with 6 banelings on the way, it looks like the roaches will find these though. So that damage potential is going to be a little bit gone. The mutas clump up. We do not have energy on the Infestors just yet until right now. The fungal one. Oh, he gets so many, but you got to chain him. Second one and third, but that's actually not going to be enough to kill these mutas because he sent them at the same time trying to catch them all. The queens do not react, and now these Infestors 75 seconds until they're useful again.
Oh, that was such a waste of that 3rd fungal. He had that set up so nicely. Oh, Banelings actually did end up getting 7 drones on the main base. Not really that bad. By the way, Tunneling Claws and Burrow are completed. This is the roach, like this is the skin they have to play with that really shows that those roaches have the Tunneling Claws, but I don't think they've been shown just yet. I think there's been a little bit of kind of a lull in aggression with the mutas, so he might not realize that this is coming. But that feels like it was a golden opportunity miss right there for Rattata to kill at least 5, 6, 8 mutas. Even if you don't kill them all, because you mean 3 fungals won't be enough. The queens could have shelled away. They would have been really softened. It was +1 missile queens. Like, I feel like that was just such a huge opportunity missed because he tried to go for more than he actually could get. He ended up getting almost none.
Oh, this is a bit of a ballsy move, but he sees the Infestors. They don't have the energy. He's targeting on the high energy ones. Infestors falling even over the Spores. And I think 1 or 2 mutas died there, but Steadfast, in the balance of things, we consider that one absolutely worthwhile. Though that being said, roaches find their way into the 4th base, into the main, starting to kill a decent amount of workers, and there is no Spore at the 4th base. So it looks like the roaches will briefly be able to escape. And with that +1 Carapace, the lings don't kill them all that quickly. So YoungYakov does take a little bit of counter damage. And remember, here's what Rattata is going for. He wants that 4th base eventually, sure, but really, he's just trying to get up, stay on 3 bases, stay on this 6 gas, but get up to Hive, get to Vipers, get to Lurkers, where this Muta player, suddenly, their build, their tech, times out extremely hard.
Yeah, and he's really committing to it. He's got 12 more Mutas on the way. He does have the +2 flyer attacks. He does not have a Hive, so he's not going into Ultras or his own Ling Bane, or pardon me, his own Lurker Hydra setup. He's not getting into Ultralist Vipers. Like, there's nothing that really advances his tech here.
Ooh.
He is committing hard. He will find this Lurker Den, and he will be able to potentially deny this big Ling Bane attack at the front, but there are Lurkers to deal with this. No Bane speed. Oh man, this is not going to go very well. He loses the detection, which means these Banelings are free-fired down by the Lurkers. He does get the base, but that was a lot of stuff to throw away for that.
He got the base. He actually got one of the Lurkers just in Splash, but he does lose drones on the other side of the map as well. And Muta play is supposed to have insane, in this ZVZ style, is supposed to have insane economy. I'm talking 90 odd drones, because that is the map control that it gives you. You do not trade efficiently, you just trade with more stuff. YoungYakov is on 70 odd workers. He's redroning now, but even with the damage that he has taken, he was not that high in the worker count. So while he's been in a good position, he's been doing a great job of sniping queens, killing bases, knocking down tech, killing infestors, killing the Lurker Den. He's not really advancing his economy the way it needs to be. Now, I think Vipers are on the field. As spores go down, not even take the opportunity. There we go. Parasitic Bomb #1. Splits are decent. And it, oh no, sorry, there's a second one. He's not aware of that one. They're gonna pop on the north side, but no.
No, it's not even full duration. It's not quite enough because of the regeneration, but man, oh man, does he take a lot of damage. Going back in here is so bold. He gets Parasitic Bombed again. Those Vipers were about 5 energy away from massively killing off these Mutas. He cannot stick around right now. He needs to get out of here and let them regenerate.
This is so spooky here, but diving back on top of the Hydras, these Mutas, Steadfast, they're so low. You can't take that fight.
No, you cannot. There was a Roach Burrow run by, looks like it's at the 5th base. Good job by YoungYakov, by the way. He recognized that Burrow move Roaches were going to be a problem, and he did go for the Overseer speed. I will say that Rattata is not in the most comfortable situation even still. He doesn't have an amazing drone count, but if he can hold this 4th base for any period of time, which he should be able to with the defenses he's got and those Parasitic Bombs shoving the Mutas away.
Okay.
He did, and he is going to lose it. Yep. Honestly, sometimes it's almost even worth it to yoink the Mutas. Ooh, he's got to be careful with that Viper, but he's also got to be careful with the Mutas. Nice job. Does pick this one out very effectively. Where are the Lurkers? They're a little bit far back, but the Hydras are going to be... Oh, are they going to be safe? The Banelings mostly get dealt with, but a couple of them do connect. Not enough. Oh my god, that one Baneling still almost chasing him down. Another Parasitic Bomb does go down. It looks like maybe. Well, I'm actually not sure. Hang on, is there enough to deal with the Mutas right now? They are almost in on top of the Hydras. There are a couple of spores still, but this is very close to hitting that tipping point and breaking through. 18 more Mutas in production.
So Steadfast, I want to point out that there was one Lurker that had not been dealt with by YoungYakov as he lost the detection. Actually, there are a couple more rotating from the 4th base on over to the 3rd, and as the Lings ran in with Lings and Mutas, that probably wasn't enough to deal with the Hydras, but they just evaporated to that one undetected Lurker as the detection went down. So YoungYakov, you're right, he was almost able to swing it through, but Lurkers are powerful, powerful units indeed. So here we go. YoungYakov finds another Spore. He doesn't have detection with his army, though. Not just
the Vipers!
Okay, good splits actually, but he doesn't get the Viper. I think he got 1 or 2, but not all 3 of them do go down, and now he jumps on the Spores on the right side. I don't even want to know how many Spores have died this game. It feels so dicey to kill Spores with Mutas, and we're seeing that in the supply. Rattata, for the first time in this game in army supply, is starting to actually pull ahead in his army supply, which, considering the economy that YoungYakov has had this entire game, that's kind of impressive.
Yeah, he lost 2 of his Vipers there. We can see he is rebuilding them. And this is what I was talking about. Even though he's taking big losses, he is holding the base. And so it's still working out pretty well for Rattata here. There was a moment where YoungYakov almost broke him. Oh, but now he's actually fighting on top of the Spores. He doesn't get any of the Lurkers Oh, he even loses an extra muta right here. We are going to see the Lings and Banes coming on in. They are nicely split up. I think he should have maybe gone for the base right there, but instead he is just going to kind of run over some lurkers. We'll lose all the Banelings. Doesn't really get anything killed off. And if some transfuses can be used, actually there's only one queen. He can't transfuse anything. But regardless, not getting the kills on anything, Rattata is taking more and more control of this game, it feels like.
That was weird, Steadfast. That almost felt intentional, where he got each lurker down to, what, 20% HP, 15% HP, and then he tagged the next one. Kind of felt like he expected the Baneling just in splash to kill them all.
Yeah.
Which is not how you want to do that. You just want to kill the lurkers, because they do so much damage to the Banes as they run in. Makes it so hard, actually, for the Banes to run in. But I don't know. That was weird. YoungYakov, though, finally transitioning into the next level of this, and actually a couple Vipers of his own would not go amiss here. You just go, you blinding cloud the lurkers that are sitting there. You abduct the Vipers into your mutas, maybe, although you're kind of worried about Parasitic Bomb at that point. That extra utility will be incredibly useful. But at this point, I mean, actually, YoungYakov, his gas count is not bad. He's sitting on 1,000 gas. He's kind of okay from that perspective.
Yeah, his gas count is good, but like you said, his tech is just unbelievably far behind. He is on 2-2 for his mutas, which is great, but Parasitic Bomb does ignore the armor. And, I mean, there's now 5 Vipers on the field. There was a critical moment about 2.5 minutes ago. I called it out, but I feel like, oh, the Parasitic Bombs. Oh, boy, he's not splitting. He's not splitting at all. There we go. Does split off. Few of the mutas. Actually, pretty good job on those splits. Ooh, 3 mutas pop at the very end. How much did he just lose? A decent amount. He has lost 67 mutas in this game, by the way.
Yeah, but it's okay because his opponent has lost 7 lurkers.
Yikes.
Yeah, resources lost is not favoring YoungYakov at this point. It's down about 11,000 resources. But if you maybe dive on top of the Vipers when they don't have the energy, maybe you can do something. But they have their energy once again. And look at what YoungYakov's doing here. He's not attacking with all of his mutas. He's setting them together in a little bit of clumps. His Banelings run in. They get a spore, but they all die. And you need transitions after this. You cannot... Ling Bane Muta is a fantastic way to establish map control, to get yourself to take as many bases as you want, but it does not end games against this style. In fact, the best way I see this get played normally is another Parasitic Bomb goes off, splits back the wrong muta 4 times over, but again, it shouldn't kill.
God.
I feel like the best way I see the transition out of this is you get to 4 or 5 bases as the muta player, and then you start immediately getting your ranged upgrades, and you start getting Hydra Dens, and you start getting your Hive and Lurkers, and it just means that you get to Lurkers from a better economic position than the 3 or 4 base Lurker players, so then you can start trading better. Staying on muta tech, and man, Ultras are just a mistake, right? They're just a trap. The Ultras into Lurkers are so bad.
Yeah. It can work out if you keep your opponent on 3 bases and you advance your tech very quickly, but once they're on 4 bases for an extended period of time, 20 drones do fall and he gets the base. But he's mined so many resources already from this base, and he's got a 5th. So this is still totally fine for Rattata. The army supply is now double, and Rattata, he might just go for it. Oh, Parasitic Bomb's gonna land in once again. Oh, this time it is a lot softer mutas. So he loses like 6 or 7 of them there. Lurkers are showing on up. This is the kind of situation where if Ultras were already out and he got a bunch of Ultra Ling Bane, maybe he could take the fight he's looking for. There's actually not that many Lurkers with the army. Oh, that's a lot of canceled Banes. But the Ultras are just now starting to... Well, actually, they're not even being built. YoungYakov, he should have no chance against this army, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, and unfortunately, YoungYakov just didn't transition his tech. He has no Carapace upgrades. He's got +1 Carapace right now, but really, for Ultras to even have a shred of utility, they need to be at 5 armor, 3 from chitinous or 2 from chitinous plating, 3 from actual armor upgrades. And it's great, it's excellent to have this type of economy that YoungYakov has been able to build for himself, but I don't think like he's used it appropriately. And all the damage he gets to Rattata right now, it's just more Hydras, it's just more Lurkers. This army, as you said, it will not be dealt with. And YoungYakov, he's trying to go for a base trade. It looks like he may be able to knock down what is now the 4th base of Rattata, but there are spores and lurkers defending the core positions. And the armada of Vipers says the mutas cannot get close.
Ironically, with no Overseer, what could have been YoungYakov's saving grace. Oh my god, the banelings, they're going to get on top of the Hydras. They are actually going to kill a lot of them. The Vipers are not here. This might be enough for the Mutas to clean up. But even if it is, nah, he didn't get enough connections, I think. What I was actually going to say is Burrowed Banes. Burrowed Banes on that number of Hydras with the move out. He could have killed a lot of them, and we saw the Banes getting on top of those Hydras. They actually killed so many of them. And with the Vipers not there, like, there was a real opportunity. It still ends up being totally fine for Rattata, I think. But if there's a chance in this game, it's off the back of that.
Remember, Rattata still has the gold. That's a lot of minerals now. Gas is really what matters at this point. But he still has a decent economy despite losing so many bases. He's mining more gas than Rattata is. And Steadfast, unfortunately, also, YoungYakov had to take advantage of the opportunity when he had the opportunities. This low, these spines, 9 drones pop. He had to take advantage of the opportunity when he could, but he had about 10 seconds before +3 flyer attack was done. And that goes a long ways in dealing with the Hydras, even as they do have +3 carapace and +3 attack. But, I mean, I think maybe the Mutas are able to take that fight, at least make it a little bit closer, wipe out more of those Hydras. But yeah, as it stands, Rattata. In fairness, the army supplies are a lot closer than they were 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, but YoungYakov also lost a crap ton of economy. It was the best opportunity YoungYakov could have hoped for, and I mean, good on him for finding it, for giving himself that opportunity. And there it is. Now he starts up Burrow. He's like, wait a minute, you I think he identified that his opponent has not been making detection, but even still, he's gonna need the biggest Burrowed Banes, and he is going to need, on top of that, Rattata to not bring detection and also not bring the Vipers. This time there is no detection for YoungYakov. He will lose another bunch of drones at this gold base. He's losing a lot of mining time here. Hydras, oh god, the Mutas. Oh, they're going to get triple parasitic bombed, and this is going to be at least a few dead Mutas. The splits are non-existent, and actually, never mind. Oh my god.
He's splitting back into the Mutas. That is unfortunate. Yeah. Steadfast, my one question for you, I don't even know that we're going to get there. What is the Scarlet quotient on how big these Burrowed Banes need to be?
Well, now there's no way. There's no way. The only way that anything happened was if he killed all the Hydras and there was enough Mutas to split against the Vipers. The Vipers weren't used even, potentially, and he killed everything. He is going to try and get on top of this, but the Lurkers burrow on up. They're going to say no, and with that, GG is going to get called. That was a pretty entertaining game number 1. Yeah. Entertaining game number 1.
I honestly, well played there by Rattata to come back into that game. He lost a bunch of queens, his infestors were dove upon, he lost his 4th base a couple times. Like, YoungYakov was running that game, but unfortunately, that is what happens with Muta players a lot, and then they just hit this brick wall of Vipers and Lurkers, and they don't often know how to transition, don't transition quickly enough. So again, I think if YoungYakov hits his transitions faster, even just goes into Lurker play from the economic lead, as I think that's the best way I've seen it done, that would have put him in a great spot. But staying on no hive for like 15 minutes, not even getting your carapace upgrades on the lings, he was just sorely lacking in tech when he could afford it. And well, 150 supply of Lurker Hydra Viper show up at your front door, it's not a lot you can do.
Yeah, without your own Lurker Viper, it's just terrifying. You can theoretically beat it with a massive Ultraling Bane surround if they put themselves in a position where, you know, you can basically hit it from 360 degrees. Even then, it's tricky to do without Vipers because you really need those blinding clouds to shut down the Lurkers and let the Banes and Ultras get on top of it. You can theoretically do it with, those Burrowed Banes, but even then you're relying on them not having an Overseer. It's just a tough situation all around. Now, I do think Mutiling Bane versus Lurker Hydra Viper can be okay on that map because the 4 base setup is rather far away from each other. And if you can keep your opponent still on 3 bases, that is a recipe for success. You can get up, like you were saying, to that 90 drone economy. You can, even if they have the much better tech, they're trading much more efficiently, you just keep rolling Banes in. And it's not like, you know, the approaches to those bases are all super tight chokes where you have to line your Banes up into small things. YoungYakov was actually doing things that were good in theory, where he would like split his Banes into little subgroups. And if you do that and you blow up the hatch, you keep them on 3 bases and sometimes even knock them down to 2. You stay on 5, 6, 7 bases even yourself. Yeah, he can get that done. Didn't manage to actually kill the hatcheries, except I think
twice.
Once.
He got the 4th base.
Once he got what? Yeah, he got the 4th. Well, but then he got the other 4th base like.
Yeah, he got the 3rd base.
6 minutes. He got the 3rd base
later. Once. He got the 4th base building once, and he got the 4th base once it was
right.
up
He did,
once.
Yeah, he got it. Yeah, he got it canceled once. But that's like well before you need to deny it as the Zerg. You need to secure it as the defensive Zerg. But I'm talking about like impactful kills.
Yes.
When he killed the 3rd base, when it was the 4th, I think, when there was 4 bases for Rattata.
Yes, brought him back down to 3 bases briefly. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, if you can keep doing that and you can trade the Banes out basically for the hatcheries, it can be a recipe for success. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to exploit that and keep his opponent down hard enough. And then he didn't take out fast enough. Yeah, just ended up not working out too well for him.
Yeah. And we do have to say the Burrowed Roach play from Rattata to pull the Muse back consistently was a big reason why he won that game. But let's see now whether this is going to be easier for Rattata to take game 2. We're going to see another similarly interesting game, as Inside and Out is where we're going.
All right, spawning down on the bottom left. Going for a 12 pool. It is CSO Esports YoungYakov. And he made a huge mistake, by the way, that I have to point out once you intro Rattata.
All right, we do it quickly then. The upper right in the blue for Good Game Gaming. He is Rattata.
Okay. This happened off screen, but I just kind of caught a glimpse of it. So sometimes something that you do, you're going to notice his larva not where it's supposed to be right now. He does not have enough larva to actually pump out all the lings he wants to. So sometimes when you start the game, notice that 3rd ling is late. Sometimes when you start the game, you build a drone and then you decide you're going to 12 pool after that. What YoungYakov did is he built that drone, he canceled it, so he deleted 1 larva. That's actually fine. But then he built an Overlord as well and canceled that. And that meant that he actually has a larva deficit behind where he should right now. And so these lings, this the 3rd set of lings, is about 3 seconds behind where it should be, 4 seconds behind where it should be. That's a pretty huge deal when you're going for a 12 pool.
Yeah, it may not sound like the worst thing, but the goal of a 12 pool is in part to get damage done on the hatchery before it is complete. So if you slow down that second set, it means there's less damage. It means that the drone pool will be much more effective because it's just more delayed. It means that by the time you have your entire army together, the lings of Rattata will probably be out. But for now, the micro from Rattata is good. Actually, he's leading with a couple low drones here, and he's just going to have them pop. That's a big mistake as well.
Yeah, this was very poorly microed from Rattata to start things off. He just lost 1 drone right away, took a ton of damage on the other 2, a big surround on the other lings right here, and this is already looking kind of bad for Rattata. Now, he does pull back the drones and manages to get his lings to the front line, but YoungYakov, if he can grab like 1 more drone, this is already worth it. There we go, gets the last drone, and I think...
Yeah, no, this is great for...
This is good for YoungYakov, yeah.
This is great for YoungYakov. We already have, of course, 2 queens on the way, so we're going up to 3 queens right around that same time. Rattata, I believe he built the queen in his main. The queen, oftentimes, what really forced the 12 pool back is when the queen pops. But that didn't happen when it needed to be, I don't think. The drones, certainly, from Rattata were pulled for forever and a day. This drone should not fall as long as the mic... There we go. There's, you take a gas, why not? Or just cancel it. Yep.
He didn't actually need to take that gas. He could have just kept the drone at the side. He actually pulled it away from the queen, which meant that the Zergling got to, do extra damage. It's a very small difference, but like a little bit of like not quite anti-micro, but a little bit of anti-micro from YoungYakov. That was, he could have saved that without having to morph it into a gas.
Yeah, but I think it's still, at the end of the day, with the amount of mining time that Rattata lost, because his drones were pulled a lot longer than you normally would against a 12 pool, losing 5 drones, losing a couple more lings than he should have. This is a decent opening from YoungYakov, and look at that. That's a fairly quick Roach Warren as the follow-up.
Well, not just look at that. Look at the supply right now. Rattata was at 36 of 36 for quite some time. He didn't build an Overlord for a very long time. Even started his 3rd hatch before he started up this Overlord. He is brutally supply blocked right now at 36 of 36. I believe... Okay, he just gets the ling speed, so it is just going to be a quick 3 hatch. So he's not going to go for a ling flood. He may have thought about it. But man, those drones delayed for as long as he was. That is not ideal.
No, it's really not. And he actually took everything out of gas for a while. Normally, when you're talking about it as DVZ, and I guess part of this is an adaptation to assuming that, well, if your opponent's going 12 pool, they're kind of going gasless behind this, so you don't have to worry about lings and mains as much. But he wasn't mining any gas for a while, so he's not going to have any sort of backlog of gas to build the roaches that he will need to build to defend against this push coming in from Rattata. This what will be a +1 speed roach timing. I can say this with almost certainty, with the lair almost done, +1 already on the way. I guess maybe there's a world where this is Nidus play, but Rattata, he has such a slim margin now to stop droning when he needs to and start building roaches, again, because of that supply block and because of how much damage he took earlier.
Well, I think this is actually going to be I like to call this Bly 2 basing, where you go up to 4 gases, and it's usually roaches, but then you usually go roach into Muta because you have that surplus of gas. Ooh, the 1 queen is going to get jumped on at the front. It did get transfused, so a lot of lings will go down. I don't know if that's worth it to sack those lings to kill 1 queen.
No, it's 6 lings for a queen, Steadfast. Yeah, you'd take that, absolutely.
I mean, the thing is, though, you need those lings alive to try and keep the roaches at home of your opponent for a long time. So trading them out, the utility of killing the queen isn't worth their utility lost from being able to force more roaches on the reinforcement to stay home. I think it's more valuable to keep those lings alive personally, but it's kind of a wash.
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to value queens at this game stage more than I would value those 6 lings because, the map control, your ability to transfuse if you need to, anti-air, they're so much more well-rounded that, yes, 6 lings are nice, but I don't know that 6 lings is the difference between keeping roaches at home or not. That being said, here comes the roaches of YoungYakov now. He's got about 5 seconds before all of his upgrades do complete, and he's sitting here with a double the roach count. Now, a bunch of roaches are in the production of Rattata. His +1 and his speed are on the way, but this is hitting just a little bit too fast. We're gonna have to see how good the micro is. Ling's looking for the surround, just looking to tank shots right now as YoungYakov getting on top of all of the roaches. Queen's starting to fall, and while the supplies looked fairly even, it was all about what was actually on the map at the time. 2 queens have fallen, and the roaches now shoving their way into the natural here, where the queens really cannot defend. The roaches cannot defend. So YoungYakov is just at the 12 pool didn't go well for Rattata. The follow-up, the massive supply block causing problems as well. And while this army right here may not end the game, it is starting the process.
Yeah, it's putting him into a brutal position right here. We do see the reinforcements coming in for YoungYakov. He is continuing to rally into it. Rattata had to pull drones to even try and clean that up. He wasn't able to. And as a result, YoungYakov just runs him over. And I think the key moment was that supply block at 36 of 36. The defense against the 12 pool was not clean. I have seen Rattata pull off extremely clean defenses. So he is definitely not playing 100%. At least not in this game too, but yeah, it is what it is. You can't always play perfectly.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I'm over a minute of supply block is hard to excuse.
Yeah, especially in a relatively short game like that.
Yeah, I don't know what the actual final number was, but however long that was when he had to build all those overlords. But in general, any one of those mistakes is probably recoverable. Not holding the 12 pool as well you would like. Again, it's hard to kind of excuse the supply block, so maybe that's not recoverable in and of itself. But in general, you make one or 2 mistakes, it's fine. But when you have them all together, you have your economy is significantly lowered compared to what it should be. Then you can't produce anything, so your economy is even worse, which means you're droning later, which means you don't have enough roaches and snowballs forward. Game goes to YoungYakov, as you said. But Steadfast, we go back to bigger maps for map number 3. It will be Stargazers. This is not a bad map for Mutas. Actually, this is a pretty good map for Mutas.
Yeah, it certainly can be a good map for Mutas. It is also tough to break your opponent on this map, but it's in the middle of the map. You know, it's good for taking engagements with surrounds. If you can set up with Lingbane, we'll see if it goes there. Both of these players are comfortable going Mutas, but they're also both comfortable. They're also just both comfortable playing roaches, as we've seen. Like they are more than anything just aggressive players that are going to try and hit their opponent with something unexpected. And when you have both players doing the same concept, it makes for some really messy, funky, fun games.
You know, I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen any Nidus play to start this series in this series as of yet, considering how aggressive these players are. And considering, Rattata is a little bit further away from the Bly school when we talk about these Eastern European Zergs. But in general, you know, these are the players that do kind of play out of the Bly school. So I'm somewhat surprised. Maybe not. I don't know. We're going to find out what happens in Game 3. Is there going to be Nidus? Will it be Lurkers? Will it be Roaches? Well, the players can tell us as Game 3 is here.
And at the very least, there's no 12 pool. As we have spawning up at the top left for CSO Esports, it is YoungYakov.
In the upper right now in the blue, making just maybe two too many mistakes in Game 2 for GGG Rattata.
And YoungYakov picked up his first map win of the group stages in that previous game. And it took a pretty weird game to make it happen as well. It took Rattata, let's be honest, kind of botching the defense a little bit on the 12 pool. It wasn't as clean as we've seen from him. It wasn't as clean as I think it could have and maybe even needed to be. But then more importantly, that like 45-second supply block, maybe I'm exaggerating, at least 30-second supply block though, at 36 of 36, when you desperately need to be droning up in order to prepare for the defense. And I mean, it was too much. Now we're seeing something very interesting out of Rattata. No gas, mining out those minerals. He's going to take an extremely quick third hatch on Stargazers here.
Ooh, that's fun. It's not quite 3 hatch before pool, but 19 supply third hatch. Now, if this was a couple years ago, Steadfast, we'd be talking about how, okay, well, there's the third hatch down, Speedling flood incoming. You get the third base on location, so you maybe have some macro out of it, but a couple years ago, this was a Speedling all in. We're not there anymore. It just means Rattata is going to get himself in a fantastic economic position. Now, luckily for YoungYakov, he scouts this. He's aware of what's happening. He sees that her third hatch. But Steadfast, how does he respond to this? Does he have a timing to respond to this?
Well, he doesn't know if this is still gasless or not. It is likely to be still gasless, but it could still be some kind of crazy all-in out of Rattata. We'll see in a moment. Great job from YoungYakov to, check for this right away. And I think his next intention is to try and see if there's gas from his opponent. And if there is no gas, then I feel like you can just go absolutely ham on the greed yourself. There's a lot of options. He will see, okay, one gas. Oh, hang on. Did he check? He didn't actually check the right side gas. I mean, he got like vision of where there would be a little bit of gas mining right away, but a little bit lazy scouting right there from YoungYakov. When he got in, he was ready to get his goal. Oh, but we are actually seeing a very fast layer. And you asked for a Nidus worm. I think we're going to be getting it here. His drone count is not high. This feels like this might just be a fast Nidus.
And, I really don't hate the idea of a Nidus play as Lings show up, but the fact that they don't have speed at this point, it tells you probably that this was that gasless play. 330 is that timing you look for. You really don't see Zergs in ZVZ going for any sort of modified clash 4-minute speed timing for the most part. But yeah, Steadfast, again, on this map in particular, Nidus is fantastic. There are so many spots that you can drop the head of that worm down that it's really hard for Rattata to cover everything in the main base, in what is now his third base, outside the front. And there we go. The worm going down. Steadfast, The question, though, is whether Rattata knows how to walk without rhythm, so he doesn't attract the worm.
Ha, yep. Got to. All right. Good Dune reference. I've got no follow-up. Good Dune reference. So here's a little funky situation. If YoungYakov drops this Nidus worm, where I expect he will, it would have been so nice if he could have snuck an Overlord up to this top side and dropped it in the top. But if he tries to build it here, there is an Overlord that is going to see it. This is actually not terrible for Rattata, except for the fact that he's droned up to 52. Actually, hang on. If this Nidus worm gets up, the game is over. The game is completely over. The Overlord moves away. Oh, no. This Overlord is going to get the sneaky Nidus. I think we are going to see YoungYakov taking down his first victory. Drone scouts it, but it's way too late. He's got no units on the field. These roaches are going to pop out. The drones are going to get pulled. But this drones don't beat roaches. It's very simple.
Yeah, we had a couple interesting games. Game 1 was a fantastic comeback from Rattata. Nice long Muta versus Lurker Hydra Slobberknocker. This is not that. This is a player not doing the scouting that they needed, getting far, far, far too greedy, having their overlords out of position, and getting utterly punished for it. Now, we're still waiting. The roaches are not popping out with extreme frequency from this Nidus. It seems like the rally is maybe a little bit slow, but even still, these are +1 speed roaches. They're not bad for Rattata, so it's just not going to work out. And YoungYakov, he takes his first series win. He takes his first 2 Masters.